Yes, good morning everyone. Okay, 6th December 2021. So, yes, as it is Monday. So, first of all, what we will do is we will have some Monday motivation. And here we will talk about 3 R's in Monday motivation. I would give some values or simply some qualities that the person as well as a civil service aspirant and civil servant should have. Resilience, reform orientation, and responsible. Okay, so briefly let me explain all these values here. Resilience. So yes, every student or a civil servant aspirant should have a resilience in themselves. Resilience in a sense that there will be many challenges. There will be many, let's say, pressures on you, or there will be huge mental stress that you will be facing in day-to-day life, even during the preparation and after becoming the civil servant also. So the person should have resilience in their mind, that they should not buckle down because of such stress and pressure. Okay, this shows the strong character of the person. Okay, so that's why every person should have the resilience in their mind. Okay, the willpower they should have to overcome the challenges in their life. This is the importance of resilience. Then why we are saying that reform orientation is required? Many times we tend to have status quo in our life. We tend to become complacent in our life, and this is what the bureaucracy is also, we can say that, known or infamous about, the complacent nature. Right? So bureaucratic work culture and all. So yes, everyone should be the reform oriented in their life. Even in their own life, they should be continuously learning, and the personality growth and development should be always the agenda in their life. At the same time, when we talk about dealing with other person, not only the reformation of the self, but also with the other persons, the reform orientation should be there, and not the retribution, that is seeking punishment. There should be reform orientation when we deal with other persons also. Suppose some other person is behaving wrong with you. Something wrong is done with you by the other person. Okay, so largely you should focus on the reform orientation, reformation within that person that will bring long lasting change in that person. Rather, retribution leads to revenge kind of thing, right? So that's why this is not good. Okay, so yes, reform orientation within as well as outside in a society. As we all know that civil servants are the agents of change in the society. They are role model in the society. And lastly, the important one, everyone should behave in a responsible manner in their daily life as a responsible citizens also. At the same time, responsibility is very important value of the civil servant. Now, responsibility value comes from within. Okay, there is difference between accountability and responsibility. We all know about that. And responsibility comes from within. This is called as self accountability, that the human, let's say, hold oneself accountable to own conscience, or simply we can say own self. At the same time, we should be responsible towards our own action. We should take the responsibility of our actions and its consequences. This shows the characteristic of a strong character of the person. Okay, so that's why in our daily life also we should be responsible in our behavior. At the same time, as a value of civil servants, responsibility is one of the major value, especially in the modern era, in the what you can say new economic reforms. After new economic reforms, the kind of role that state has assumed, for that purpose responsibility is being considered as value, like good governance, ethical governance and all. Okay, so yes, now what we'll do is briefly take an overview of important articles from today's newspaper. Okay, look at the first page. Army operation in Nagaland goes awry, 15 civilians dead. Okay, so this last 1 or 2 days we are witnessing the kind of violence that is going on in Nagaland. The extremist groups, there is conflict between the armed forces, police forces and the extremist groups, and the civilians are also getting involved, and the innocent people are getting killed in that brawls. Okay, so just you should be aware that the problem of insurgency is part of internal security in our syllabus GS3 paper. Okay, so we'll have follow up on this article whenever there is editorial. We'll discuss from GS3 perspective. Okay, yes. Now directly come to the page number 6, editorial page. Now two important articles having same context. On left hand side editorial, booster shot and the Omicron response is not making sense. Okay, so yes, in last 1 week we are having this follow up of Omicron variant has been declared as a variant of concern by WHO, and now we are seeing that today itself the news has come, more than 20 cases have been found in India. Delhi first case yesterday registered of Omicron variant. Now the article is not talking about that, this is just a context, but the major aspect being discussed in the article here is that the kind of response has been given by various countries. This is not in a rational manner or a scientific basis. A very haphazard manner and irrational manner the response has been given by the countries towards this Omicron variant. So the article discusses that aspect, who are responsible, not only government but some of the scientists as well as the social media experts, television experts. So they are to some extent spreading the misinformation about this variant, right? So we will try to find out all these aspects. On that booster shot article, the article also mentions about what should be approach of the government towards this. Okay, now the bottom article, cooperation awaits its finding Rafizan movement. Okay, so it talks about cooperative movements. It is also part of GS1 society, GS2 paper governance aspect. But the article is giving the evolution of cooperative movement background in the first part, and then it talks about the problems that the cooperatives are facing in India. But yes, let me tell you that there is very specific lecture by Ansari sir given recently in ED lectures about the cooperative ministry that was formed in India, right? So that particular lecture is freely available on YouTube. Okay, so directly you visit the YouTube channel and watch that half-an-hour discussion by Ansari sir on cooperatives. Okay, everything is discussed in that article. Okay, so watch that video instead of discussing this particular short article. You will get holistic approach towards that particular cooperative issue in India. Now on page number 7, op-ed page, the need to reopen Anganwadis. Now this is important because GS2 paper social justice part is there, ICDS scheme and the Anganwadis, how they are playing important role in ensuring the access to health, especially primary health in the rural areas. There are questions being asked by UPSC in GS2 paper which are specific on centrally sponsored schemes. Okay, scheme based questions are generally asked in GS2 paper. One question generally is always there. Okay, so the centrally sponsored scheme or important schemes at national level. So you should be aware about what are the challenges and the design and implementation. This is the topic in syllabus. Okay, so here we will talk about ICDS scheme. Okay, now moving on to next page. Yes, on the bottom side you can see Hyderabad-based rocket men aim for stars. Now this is the new startup in India's space sector, the named Skyroot Aerospace. See, there is surely the question about the increasing private sector participation in the space sector. GS3 paper, Science and Technology. You need to have one such good example of budding startup ecosystem in India and how the government of India along with ISRO needs to protect that ecosystem, nurture that ecosystem in the space sector. Okay, so we are expecting question in this aspect particularly because last 2 years there has been many such reforms by the government for facilitation of private sector in space. Right, so like InSpace was formed, right, so such kind of reforms are being done, and this is the example of how this private sector is promoting innovation and entrepreneurship. Okay, so that example you should take from this particular article. Again, there is anti-drone technology for Pakistan borders. Our defense minister, Home Minister, Union Home Minister is talking here. So anti-drone technology, we are aware about how drones are being used by the terrorist organizations, as well as you can see across the border the drones are being used, and that's why the anti-drone system is going to be given to the BSF as well as armed forces along the Pakistan border. Okay, just be aware about such kind of system. There can be specific question on the drones in GS3 paper, internal security part. Border management is the part of syllabus. At the same time, there can be question related to we can say specific use of technology or by the terrorist organization, and how our border management needs the technology implementation, smart fencing, smart border management, and all these things. Okay. Yes. Okay then, so there is one article in text and context page. Okay, so in text and context page, the article talks about hypersonic missiles, and in that article what we understand different types of hypersonic missile, how they work, these weapons, then the difference between ballistic missile and hypersonic missile. At the same time, it also mentions about the scramjet engine. So basics about all this defense technology. It is important for prelims examination, science and technology part. Along with that, for mains examination, GS3 paper, science and technology part. Okay, so we'll try to know about the basics of all this technology, and finally practice prelims MCQ. We'll try to solve on the basis of this information. First of all, yes. So both articles in one part itself we will discuss here. It talks about the Omicron variant that is spreading in different parts of the world, including India now, and many cases are found in India. How the response of different countries has been there, especially the irrational response and not based on the scientific temper or the fact evidence based. This is actually we have to understand. What has been the response of the country? So, for example, ban on travel from these countries where the particular, let's say, variants is being found. Then second, booster dose. Immediately the booster dose is being allowed. Then let's say the naming. Some kind of prejudices are being used, like South African variant, Botswana variant. Already WHO has let's say from time to time given the guideline that such kind of naming should not be there, and universal naming that is given by WHO should be used. Okay, so still such kind of response is there. Along with that, we should understand this response is very much similar to what we observed previous year in 2020 when first let's say wave of the pandemic was witnessed by the world. Okay, so however, we should understand that the situation at that time was very much different compared to at present situation. At that time, we were not at all knowing about COVID-19 virus. We did not have any kind of information about this virus. At the same time, we were not having the appropriate health infrastructure to deal with such kind of virus. Pandemic, you can say. Okay, and the situation was completely different at that time. But at present, we have sufficient knowledge about this type of virus. Though we can understand that there are many such mutations in this particular Omicron variant, but still we know about this virus. We are also knowing about, let's say, the significant population of the world has received vaccination, at least one dose also. And that's why some kind of immunity has been created. But earlier there was no immunity towards this virus at all. So it shows that that time during March 2020 and at present December 2021, there is stark difference. And we know about this virus, and that's why the response should have been calculated. Okay, or at least we should have been sensitively dealing with now the new variants. At the same time, the problem is not only of the governments. The few researchers and scientists, along with them so-called experts on social media and prime-time television channels, conveniently take position which echoes popular sentiments and where the sense of rationality is drowned out. So yes, some of you may be watching the television channel and these experts with which the conversations are going on. Obviously they are not taking rational view. Whatever the public, already there is panic among the public, and this is being increased by not evidence based, let's say, opinions of these experts. Rather they are echoing the popular sentiments that is there in our society or the countries. This is also the problem. At the same time, with the emergence of new variants, what should be the approach? The next natural step has to be that countries should become more alert about need for tackling vaccine inequities. So here we should understand that why this virus had mutation and is spreading fast in African countries only. Because the significant population in Africa has not been vaccinated. Okay, we should understand this fact. Along with that, we should understand that such kind of vaccine inequities, so majority of the developed world and some of the developing countries, they have vaccinated their population. But what about underdeveloped countries? So there is huge vaccine inequities, and because of that, there will be new waves of this pandemic. So immediately when such kind of threat arrives, the countries should focus on reducing these vaccine inequities. However, what has been the response of the developed countries? They are now securing their borders. There is protectionism. They are focusing on their own people only, providing booster dose. जैसे हमारे यहाँ पे भी demand हो रहा है, right? So give a booster dose. But rather than giving the first and second dose of the vaccines to all population, we are prioritizing booster dose here. This is not evidence-based approach, rational approach, scientific approach. So that's why as a way forward, we should understand that solution is not the booster dose. The approach has to be to increase the coverage with first 2 shots of vaccine and focus on improving adherence to the COVID-19 appropriate behavior. So the way forward should be like this. Okay, we can expect question this year means only the new variants and future waves of the pandemics and all this type of question. UPSC largely asks such question which can or such events may happen in future. So we should be aware about what should be the approach of the government here. Along with that, certain facts that the editorial provides there, you should be aware about many of the population or some of the people in the 60 plus age, also around 8% of the medical professionals, they have not been vaccinated. Recently there was fact that many of the school staffs in Kerala, they have not been vaccinated. Now such population should be vaccinated first. Any kind of vaccine hesitancy should be reduced. Last month there was door-to-door campaign in some of the states to vaccinate the people and give the second dose of the vaccine, and this has been successful. So that should be replicated everywhere in India. Okay, again the IEC campaign to reduce the vaccine hesitancy and all these aspects should be understood here. Okay, fine. Now moving on to next. The need to reopen Anganwadis. So we are talking about the ICDS scheme here, and first of all let's know about ICDS scheme briefly and then we will discuss this. Okay, so yes, Integrated Child Development Scheme, ICDS, this is centrally sponsored services, ICDS. It was launched in 1975, centrally sponsored scheme. Now centrally sponsored scheme and central sector scheme, there is fine difference between these two. Centrally sponsored scheme is basically the scheme which is there in that sector which is the domain of states, that it is state subject, like for example health. Now health is state subject, but central government is working in the state subject, is also facilitating, providing funds to the states, and central and state government share the funds here. In central sector scheme, 100% funding largely is given by the central government. Now it is being implemented by Ministry of Women and Child Development because they are the beneficiaries here under the scheme. Now it is implemented through Anganwadi centers, and Anganwadi workers are the main agents of implementation. 6 services are given to the beneficiaries. Which are these? Like programs like Supplementary Nutrition Program, SNP, then Health and Nutrition Checkups, Immunization, Non-Formal Education for Children in Preschool, that is you should understand Early Childhood Care and Education, ECCE. Then Health and Nutrition Education Referral Services. These 6 services are given under ICDS scheme. There can be question in prelims examination about ICDS scheme. Okay, let us understand about specifically now Anganwadi workers, Anganwadi centers which are being reopened in the country in a phase-wise manner, how they play important role in rural areas, especially ensuring social safety net for poor households. Right? Yes. Okay. Now yes, you can note down this later, you can download the PDF. Okay, let us discuss this article. So we are talking here about this ICDS scheme. Now as a part of this ICDS scheme, Anganwadi workers play very crucial role here, especially for poor households. Okay, so it acts as a social safety net. How it acts as a social safety nets, like for example nutrition services. Supplementary nutrition is given to the pregnant and lactating women and the children belonging to 0 to 6 years of age, right? So this is very important for their nutritional security. Then we can say that the health checkup and the follow up on that. This is also very important to ensure the MMR, IMR and the child mortality rate CMR. So this is important aspect to ensure the right BMI, also ensure the child wasting under nutrition is not there. Then referral services you can mention here. Also you can talk about the the menstrual health of the adolescents. All these things are covered in the Anganwadi workers or Anganwadi centers. And the food, nutrition and food security, the major aspect, health checkup. So obviously it is reducing, it is acting as a preventive health care, no? It is reducing the burden on these poor households for curative health care, and in future they may have to go to the hospital for certain kind of diseases or issues, health issues. So that is prevented here. So the kind of financial burden is also reduced. This is what social safety net we are talking. Along with that, the early education of the children is also ensured by the Anganwadi workers. This is also important aspect. So early childhood care and education, ECCE. This is what our NEP 2021 is also, 2020 is also focusing on ECCE. Yes, let's understand the other significance. For example, sending younger children to Anganwadis will free up women's time, including their for economic activities. So it acts as a support system, right? So the women can go and work and earn livelihood, and their children are safe with the Anganwadi workers. They are getting food also. They are getting the early childhood care. Along with that, we know that early childhood, especially up to 5 years, is very important for development of cognitive abilities. And that's why appropriate nutrition along with certain kind of education. So that helps in overall brain development, mental abilities of the child. That's why the focus should be there on investing on Anganwadi workers or ICDS scheme. And our NEP 2020 also emphasized on ECCE, and again the role of Anganwadi workers becomes very important here. Finally, we should understand the challenges and way forward. Challenges here you can mention. They are facing challenges like lack of enough knowledge about health and nutrition, lack of training, and incentives, lack of infrastructure in Anganwadis, and at present due to pandemic they were closed for 1.5 years. Okay, so that's why they were not able to give the services. Yes. So you were mentioning about Har Ghar Dastak and the door-to-door campaign. Yes, elder siblings at present they are staying at home by taking care of their younger siblings, and that actually affects their education. Okay, so yes, this is also good point. You can take from that. The elder siblings can go to the school when the younger siblings are there in the Anganwadis. So these are the challenges. Then way forward, you can mention the way forward like same thing. We can talk about appropriate training, more incentives, income in terms of salaries and other allowances. Then you can talk about increasing or strengthening infrastructure, training in health and education, early education, how to give that early education. That's so also one of the challenges, they are overburden in terms of administrative let's say compliances, and that's why they dedicate more time for the administrative compliances as compared to health and education, early education to the children. Okay, so what we can do is increase number of Anganwadi workers, provide them supplementary workers especially for education of the children purpose, right? So such kind of way forward can be written, and this has been successfully implemented in some of the states like Tamil Nadu. Okay, yes, fine. Now moving on to next, prelims oriented articles, the arms race towards hypersonic weapons. The context of this explainer in text and context page is that recently China had launched this hypersonic missile which travels through globe and then targeted its particular target, we can say, and that's why the US is concerned about this hypersonic missile program and weapons of China. That's why it was in news. So again, the basics of all this in prelims, surely there can be question about this. Yes, hypersonic weapons or missiles, they are maneuverable weapons that can fly at speeds in excess of Mach 5. Now we know that Mach is the speed of sound, 1 Mach is the speed of sound, and we can say up to 5 Mach it is supersonic, and below 1 Mach it is subsonic, above 5 Mach it is hypersonic. This is basics. Okay, we have learned this in school level itself. Now hypersonic missiles are new class of missiles capable of both maneuvering and of flying faster than 5000 km per hour. You can imagine it is going to cross one continent within an hour, 5000 km. Okay, and this would enable such missile to penetrate most missile defenses and further compress the timelines for response by the nation under attack. Now, what is the difference between ballistic missile and hypersonic missile? Conceptually, we should understand that ballistic missile has a fixed trajectory of hyperbolic nature, and there is concept called as re-entry. So yes, on the large time this particular missile moves in upper atmospheric part and then re-enters into the lower atmosphere and hit the target. This is what the ballistic missile is there. Okay, so though it is much faster compared to hypersonic but follow fixed trajectory, it is not maneuverable and travel outside the atmosphere to re-enter only near impact. Okay. On contrary, hypersonic missiles or weapons travel within the atmosphere and can maneuver midway, and combined with their high speed makes their detection and interception very extremely difficult by the ground level radars. Okay, so this is the major difference between the hypersonic and ballistic missiles. Now, the scramjet engines, so this has been successfully test fired by DRDO in India, scramjet engine in 2019 and 20 also. First of all, ramjet engine, and then the fine difference with scramjet. First, ramjet engine was developed. A ramjet operates, it is also called as jet engine. Okay, so turbojet engine, other name is turbojet engine, ramjet. It operates by combustion of fuel in the stream of air compressed by the forward speed of aircraft itself, as opposed to normal jet engine, which there is compressor section which compresses the air. That is, there is no compressor section in the aircraft or that engine. It is directly taking air from the atmosphere. Okay, this is ramjet engine. However, this air flow through the ramjet engine is subsonic or less than the speed of sound. Now there is a difference, this particular difference between scramjet and, so that's why scramjet is supersonic combustion, ramjet, right? So what is the difference? In scramjet engine, air goes inside the engine at supersonic speed and comes out at hypersonic speed. So supersonic, just now we have seen 1 to 5, it is supersonic. Above 5 Mach, it is hypersonic. Okay, and in ramjet engine, less than 1 Mach, that is subsonic. Other working is quite similar. So the air is directly taken from the atmosphere by the engine. Okay, so remember this for prelims as well as mains examination. This is going to be the future of the engines, and why it is important, because it reduces the fuel amount that is required, and the weight of the aircraft or the engine or the missiles, weapons, it is getting reduced. Okay, because of certain section like compressor, it is not required there. Now you can take this example of the startup, the good or let's say innovative startups that are there in the space sector in India at present, and they have successfully test fired Dhawan 1, their own, let's say, fully privately developed cryogenic rocket engine, right? So this is first privately developed fully cryogenic rocket engine running in 2 high performance rocket propellants, LNG and liquid oxygen, LOX. Okay, so this is the good development. Also, this particular startup has won national award for startups in the space research. Okay, name is Skyroot Aerospace. It is the startup started by the IITians जो pass out hai, and they have been the employee of ISRO, and later on they left ISRO and they started the startup with this. In last 2 years, we have witnessed significant growth in the startups in India's space sector, not only in India but around the world, and what we have witnessed there in US, SpaceX, it has surpassed the government agency NASA in terms of innovation. Okay, and we are also trying to promote that innovation culture and entrepreneurship culture in the space sector in India. So this is such example you can give. Essay topic is also expected here regarding private sector participation in space. Okay. Now practice prelims MCQ. What could be answer to this question? Yes. Yes, over the horizon radar, it can be tackled by the over the horizon radar hypersonic missile and not the ground level radars.
Answer C, sir.
Yes.
C.
Very good. Yes. So yes, C is correct answer. So look at the statements about ICDS. We have to find the correct statement. It is centrally sponsored scheme. Yes, this is correct statement. It is implemented by Ministry of Health and Welfare, Family Welfare. No. Yes, Ministry of Women and Child Development. Okay. So this is incorrect, and supplementary nutrition program is part of ICDS. This is correct. So that's why 1 and 3 only. Fine. Okay. So yes, any other question you have? Okay then. So let us stop for today. Yesterday's The Hindu newspaper discussion, you will receive the recorded video. Fine. Thank you.